guys, so Matt again from Prime Angling in Worthing. This week I'm going to take a step back from the lure basics videos that we've been doing. So last week we actually got out on a trip, which is probably my favourite trip of the year. So we got micro jigging with Martin on Spirit of Arran, based in Littlehampton, and we basically do an entire day on the micro jigging rods with the small metals, primarily kind of targeting bream, but also anything and everything else that we can kind of get hold of. So with that in mind, and then chatting to a few of the guys in here over the week, explaining, you know, we had a really good day basically, and it was nice to get out. So after chatting about, so many people have turned around to kind of, well, how do you do it? How do you actually go out specifically targeting bream on a piece of metal when everyone else would be dropping kind of a 2-hook flapper, small hooks on squid baits? So here we are. Thought we'd do a video, see if we can kind of I love it when words just don't come out properly, but we're actually going to continue. I was going to cut that, but sod it, let's carry on. We're going to try and describe method, tactics, how we do this, how we actively target them, what we're looking for, what we're using, why we're using it, and let's do it. So I think first and foremost, probably the most important bit of kit as far as I'm concerned is the rod. Bream don't hit it as hard as you'd expect. With your bait, and you know, if you're bait fishing, you're waiting for that tip, and that tip is just going to rattle, bang, 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 bang. It's like it's getting hit from every angle at a million miles an hour. Now, this isn't the same with the lures. I personally think that actually, as you're drifting over the grounds where they are, they're hitting it almost out of kind of a defense mechanism. It is kind of a, you know, clear off, we're here, get out of it. I don't think they're actively kind of going, oh look, a teeny tiny fish, I'm going to eat this. I think it's more just kind of a smash and run. So with that in mind, quite a short rod. We're working very, very tight to the bottom. So top to bottom down there. I stay very, very tight to the bottom. I think that, you know, this is generally where they're kind of hanging out heavy or thicker, if you like. So actually getting that down there, really winding them up and trying to entice them to actually come up and strike and smack the lure is paramount. So a nice short rod. Reason for that is, you know, when you're jigging, you're not whacking that right up. You know, if you're on like a 9-foot rod or whatever, you've essentially got almost 9 foot of movement there. If you're fishing in 20 odd foot of water, you're working way too much water, in my opinion. Basically, because as you're on the drift, you're going to come right up, you're going to go over their heads, and then you're going to come down on the other side. You know, just staying in that kind of zone and just working it and knocking them off and getting them to smack it is what works for me anyway. Also, that works massively well for wrasse as well. I mean, if you're literally dropping it on their heads and working it past them, they're more likely to smack it. If you're covering the ground better, you're going to get more hits. So rod wise, in mind, there is only one rod for this in the UK. No one else is really doing it. I mean, if you're doing it, you're bringing stuff in from Japan, if you're bringing in the right stuff. So as far as kind of UK based, you have got the HTO micro jigging rod. This is just wicked fun. I mean, a lot of you guys have probably seen the videos last year where we really played around with these mid-double smooth hounds on these just to see what they were capable of. But this is, I'm pretty sure it's a 6-foot rod. I'm just going to check. So yeah, it's 6 foot, tubular through, but it is a very parabolic, I want to say parabolic, but a very through-actioned rod. This is a one-piece rod all the way through, and that's what gives it its strength. It's absolutely ridiculous. As you come down on the tip, that action just comes right the way through, kind of down to the grip and the handle. But the shortness, the lightness, this will jig 45 max vert. I mean, yeah, all right, I've vert jigged a little bit more than I should have done. I've handballed it over the side. It eats it up. But stick to your 45s. When you're fishing lighter metals on these boats, when you start getting onto the drift, in order to get the lighter metal down, you are going to have to just kind of flick and ping that metal up tide so that it can come down, so that you can kind of match it on the drift and then get into the vertical jigging, which is where you want to be on the bottom. So rod wise, that's my honest opinion. The most, I keep saying my honest opinion, I don't know why. I think it's because I'm worried that everyone else is going to think differently, and let's be honest, they do, and who cares? There's 1,000,001 ways to skin a cat. This is how I do it. Everyone else might be doing it different, but rod is the most important part. Reel, not so important, but the main thing to have on there is not a silly small reel, something with a half sensible capacity. Reason being, there's been 1,000,001 times we've gone out and done this, and actually last week was a prime example. There was absolutely floods and floods of bass about. What were the bass feeding on? Teeny tiny little kind of glass eels, dinky little things. What are we mimicking by bouncing these up and down on the deck for bream? We're mimicking small little fry. We're hitting bass, we're hitting decent bass on these rods. And as much as, you know, the rod can handle it, of course it can, but you kind of need the line. You know, you're not going to stop a decent fish as it's absolutely screaming off, especially if it goes off against your drift. So plenty of line, half sensible reel there, just naturally matches up beautifully with the nebula reel, nebula rod. Makes sense, doesn't it? And it does look pretty. And that is your balanced outfit, absolutely spot on, ready to rock and roll. Braid wise, personally, I've been using anywhere between 8 and 11 pound. That is mostly because of the diameters. So the diameters, you want them ultra thin because you are working a light jig in tide. Obviously, the less resistance you get on the line, the easier it is to stay in contact with your jig, the more time you're going to get vertical before you get strung out. On the bottom end of that is a for what it is, it's a substantial leader, fluorocarbon. I mean, I'm using 20 pounds. Reason behind that, again, is more to do with kind of the ground that you're fishing over. Also the fact that obviously you are jigging a hell of a lot and you don't want those assist hooks getting frapped up on the line. But also the other side, you hook a wrasse, we all know what they're like, they're just going to bury their head straight back down into those rocks. You need that little bit of abrasion resistance just to kind of get them back out and give you half a chance of getting them boated, I guess. So that's what I use. Absolutely love it. On the business end, and this has been talked about for nearly 3 years now. Every time we do the session, we try and catch on different ones. We try and play around with different things. We try and do all kinds of stuff. But we always go back to the same bloody lures. Now these are, for me, it's the HTO Tic Tacs. So 21 gram. I mean, the first year we did these weren't out. So I was kind of on 10 gram, which was the biggest ever doing at the time. But these 21's game changer. You can work these through a lot more of the tide. Whereas before we were kind of getting an hour either side of high. When it slackened off enough, we could use the 10s. Now we can use the 21s, and I'll be honest, I use these all through the day. For anyone that's kind of struggles with that, or they want something just a little bit heavier, or you've got heavier tide, or you're a little bit deeper, move on to the yo-yos. So the HTO yo-yos, these go up to 38 grams, which will again allow you to fish in much faster water and probably less ideal conditions. But what you've probably noticed as I'm holding these up is the colour. White is your best friend with bream. We have tried to buck this trend. We've tried to play around with it. I've tried catching them on others. The closest I got was a plain silver. Might as well have been white, if I'm honest. That's what they like. So give it to them. Don't waste your time trying to catch them on anything else. Trust me, been there, done that, got bored of it, went straight back to white. Method. This came apparent actually fishing alongside a friend of mine out on the boat, and we were identical setups, identical everything else. And when one of us was picking up fish, the other one wasn't. What I found is you need that little extra bit of slack on the braid, on the drop. So you're coming up, you're not staying in contact as you would do with a bass. You can't really, you're really light, but you're almost tracking it down. I think that's probably the best word for it, is as you come up, you're tracking where you think the braid would be, and you're keeping an eye on that tip ring and keeping an eye on that braid coming out, because as soon as that twitches, that's interest, that's a fish, that's, you know, they're there. And when you start getting those twitches, for me, hit it. Just wind down, take that slack straight out, hit it. 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, that fish is there, job done. Sorted, he's hooked and he's off, and you're in for a good scrap. But I did notice also this year, actually kind of leaving the lure on the bottom, kind of coming from the perch side of things, from winter, of dead sticking. It's not dead sticking, but it's just giving that kind of counting to 2 when it's on the deck. So it's just bang, 1, 2, lift, flick. And what I did find was there was a lot of interest kind of as it had settled on the bottom. That's when they came down, that's when they pecked, that's when they hit, and then I was hitting them on the way back up. But I think I've given enough up of what we've been up to. I would strongly suggest getting out there. It is the best kind of fishing this time of year. Everything else is still waking up, but the bream are in absolute force, and there's some clonkers out there. I will add some pictures onto this, onto the end, of all the different kind of odds and sods and bream that we have caught using this method, and a lot of the other species that have come up as well. Obviously, all of this gear, we do it heavily in the shop. I love it, so obviously the shop loves it. Of course it does. Everyone should have a go at this. It is wicked. All available online, in store. Obviously, I'm here all the time. Pop in, come in, have a chat, and I'm more than happy to go through it and get you set up with the guys, and obviously put you onto the right boats and everything else that like doing this kind of gear. But until then, we'll get back onto lure basics probably next week. Hit me up, let me know what you want on that one, because I'm struggling which direction to go. We could do lots of different things, but let me know in the comments. And until then, enjoy the pics. Obviously, have a look on the website. It's all on there. Take it easy, enjoy it, and see you next time.